Salut everyone, Airmax here. In this video, I'm gonna show you how to optimize CachyOS for gaming. And let's be fair, there is not a lot of things to do, but there is some trick that might help you when it comes to optimizing your overall experience in gaming and also a little bit of performance. Let's get into it. As always, let's start with a little bit of context. This video is gonna be the fourth of the third video related to CachyOS optimization tutorial for gaming and also all the rest, installing, kernel optimization, etc., etc. There is a lot of topic we're gonna go in this series, and obviously, if you like the previous video, I really encourage you to give a thumbs up to the one you like, and also a thumbs up to this one because it really helps the algorithm. But also encourage you to subscribe to the channel because you won't miss the next optimization video related to CachyOS. Some of the tricks I'm going to be using there are also applicable on other distro, not all of them, but some of them. So even if you are not a CachyOS user, you might learn things by watching this video or just by comparing how things are done in this distro versus the one you use, for example, like what you are used to. And you will see, I don't think you're going to be disappointed. So now we kind of set up the overall, landscape toward this series of video toward CachyOS. There is one point I want to really talk about right off the bat is your choice of desktop environment, but also display manager. Whether you are using GNOME or KDE, for example, and whether you want to use X11 versus Wayland. So I could make a full 1 hour debate around those choices. And what I'm going to do right now is that I'm going to follow what I've recommended in the previous video related to what you should use. And my recommendation is based on what I'm looking forward to when I think about a desktop environment in terms of feature and performance, but also related to some taste. So again, what I'm going to go through right now is a little bit objective, but also a little bit subjective. And I want to make it clear that whatever I'm going to push in this tutorial is applicable on other desktop environment, but some settings are going to be a little bit different whether you're using GNOME or KDE. So my choice for DE is KDE. I don't want to get too deep into why I choose this one, but with my hardware, which is a NVIDIA RTX 4090, and my screen setup, I have 4 screens connected right now to my graphic card. I believe that this is the best desktop environment for my hardware. You could have a different vision, which is fine, but that's the direction I'm taking there. And I will recommend it if you have a similar type of hardware. Having multiple monitors on GNOME can be sometimes a little bit complicated. I don't know if they improve their support for this type of setting, but I remember when I tested it last time, it was not a good experience. When it comes to display protocol, which are X11 or Wayland, I went with Wayland because since the release of the driver 555 or 555 from NVIDIA, the Wayland experience is really, really good. Is it perfect? Not really perfect yet. As I'm speaking right now, CachyOS is running the driver 560 beta, and the experience has been really good. There is still little bugs here and there, but you can see that at every release of driver and even between beta and official release, there is a little turn up in performance, but also in overall usability. And right now, Wayland definitively give me the best experience when it comes to gaming. So I could get a little bit deeper there. For example, CachyOS, they apply patch to Kwin, which is the application responsible of push images to your screen on KDE. And those patches, they give you really a head start versus any other desktop environment on CachyOS. So again, this is my personal choice. You are free to do whatever. You know, you could go XFCE and X11 if you want, but it's gonna have some impact. Obviously, if you go, for example, with X11, I will just give you an example. Like if you're on X11, don't forget to deactivate the compositor, for example, whatever desktop environment you have, because you're gonna gain significant amount of FPS by just doing that. So this is not one of the tips, for example, I'm going to share with you in this video, because this video is going to be based on Wayland and KG. So just a tip, if you are running X11, what you really need to make sure of is to deactivate the compositor. I've been saying that in all the videos that I've been pushing on this channel, but in case you miss them, deactivating the compositor, Alt, Shift, F12, if you are on KDE, search on the wiki of your desktop environment what is a way to deactivate the compositor. If you are running X11, it's going to give you a boost of FPS, like a pretty significant one, so don't forget to do it. Now let's talk about the kernel choice and which one you should be running for having the best performance in gaming on CachyOS. And my recommendation here is going to be pretty straight to the point. Just use the default kernel. So the default kernel calls like Linux CachyOS here. You see it has a tag like CachyOS there. It's kind of like a placeholder. And what the team of CachyOS is doing behind the scene, they will push the best kernel with the best setting through this placeholder. It's delivered by the distro itself. You have nothing to do. There is a way to gain a little bit, I would say, like of uplift by starting to play deeper with the kernel. But this is going to be a next tutorial for my CachyOS video series. For a simple reason is like, I would like to dive really deep into this one, and I don't think it will be worth it for a gamer that doesn't want to have a headache for kernel. Because the kernel they deliver, again, is well optimized, and they choose it taking in consideration the feedback from the community and their own benchmark. And I'm telling you, for fact-checking their choice, they are doing the right thing there. When you are using Linux CachyOS, right now, as we speak, mid-August 2024, you are in fact using a CachyOS optimized kernel with a board scheduler, and also having the sched-ext implemented into it. But again, that's going to be another video because it's going to be a little bit too complex for this one. Another point that some users have been asking me a lot is like, what do you do depending on your CPU to have the best gaming experience? Like, is that something you need to do, like adding a variable or whatever? So I'm going to cut this in two parts. I would say, like, if you are using AMD, again, there is nothing to do. Just go there and enjoy the ride. If you are using Intel CPU, I will advise to look for something called the split lock mitigate. And as you can see, all the steps to activate this specific variable is on the wiki of CachyOS. So again, I invite you to go check. But long story short, if you have one of those latest gen Intel CPU, which have like E-core and P-core, and also like I would say, like, if you have a latest gen in general, I really advise you to disable split lock mitigate, because this can give you a big increase of FPS and fluidity related to gaming. So there is the tutorial there. It's pretty easy. You can activate it by just typing this command here. So you copy it, you paste it in your terminal, tap enter, tap your password. Okay, and now it's set up. But if you just activate it this way, I think it's the best way to try it and compare it to activate it and deactivate it. So let's say you have any type of game, you will start it before activating this command, check the FPS, close the game, activate the specific variable there, then relaunch the game, and you should have a big improvement in terms of like FPS, but also in terms of like frame time. Like the game should be like smoother. And the reason behind it, like if you look at the actual like feedback from Phoronix there, it's related to the split lock detector. Okay, and the FPS, I have one of my buddies, like I'm gonna name it like Cardiac, who was not aware of this setting until he started to dig into the CachyOS wiki there. And by just activating it, he had such a better experience in most of this game. I think he gained like between 30% and 50% performance by just activating that with his Intel machine. So yeah, I think he have a 49 900KS, like something like that, like a good CPU from Intel, like the latest generation. But this is the type of like performance you could get by just activating that. And then if you gain any type of performance, what you need to do, like to add it persistent to the machine, is just create a file called 99-spitlog.conf in etc/systemctl. So here you will type nano, copy that, okay, and then you will add this variable there, up, and you should be good to go. Obviously, when you come to CPU, there is a lot of like tweak you could do. One of them is disabling any type of mitigation related to your CPU. However, I will not advise to do it, okay, because it's related to security, and I will not go in that direction to get like 10 or like 5% more FPS, but it's still an option, whether you have AMD or Intel. All the instructions are on the CachyOS wiki, but my recommendation will be not to get in that direction because the risk is just not worth it. So now let's talk about the GPU. If you are on the AMD side, you literally have nothing to do. Everything should be up to date with the latest kernel and the latest Mesa version on CachyOS. I don't believe you have a lot of things to activate or not activate from this side. When it comes to NVIDIA, something I noticed, especially right now, like we're switching from X11 to Wayland, there might be one little variable you're gonna have to set up to make sure you have the best experience on NVIDIA. And again, it's available on the CachyOS wiki, and it's something that I really encourage you to try because it's gonna give you an improvement in terms of FPS when it comes to gaming on Wayland. So this, again, is really relative to the driver 555 and 560. I believe in the future, this might not be required anymore, but as I'm creating this video, I feel like I need to share that with you because this is definitely a good tip. But what I'm trying to explain to you is like in the future, this little tweak might not be usable anymore because obviously like it's going to be integrated within the driver for a better like user experience for the NVIDIA user. But just in case, what you need to do here is like you need to deactivate or disable the GSP firmware from the card. And this I had to do it personally, and I'm going to show you how to do it. So you go on the wiki.cachios.org there, you copy and paste the name of the file you need to edit. And this is going to create this little configuration file here in your modprobe.d folder. So we're going to create it using the sudo command there. And I'm going to paste the option. And literally what this option is saying is like disable the GPU firmware here. You save it with Ctrl-O, yes, enter, and then Ctrl-X to exit. So now the configuration file is set up. We need to make sure that this configuration is written inside the initramfs. So, if I speak a little bit gibberish here, just don't be worried, just do what I say. And here I'm going to update the initramfs. And the initramfs is a little file which is loaded when the PC starts, when it boots. And it boots all the configuration related to a lot of variables, and especially your graphic card. And by saying that, by running this command, you just update it to make sure that this new config file is now taken in consideration. So sudo space mk init cpio space -p capital. And you will see it's going to go there and it's going to recreate the file initramfs -linux -cachios.image. Simple as that. All right, so now we cover all the technical aspect. I'm gonna go a little bit softer there for getting into the typical setting on KDE and what I do each time I set up a new install. So the first thing I would do is always go to the setting, display and monitor there, and make sure your monitor are actually at the highest refresh rate. So here, my monitor, they are at the highest refresh rate. So you will selection the refresh rate there. You're going to press the one you want, for example, like 270, and then you will press apply. So here for the adaptive sync, it's going to be a little bit different depending on if you have AMD or NVIDIA. Obviously, if you have a G-Sync or VRR capable screen, you already know about it, but it's simple as that. You just activate it here and it's going to be automatic, always or never. Personally, I set it to automatic. The only trick with NVIDIA is that it does not support multiple monitor VRR yet. So even if your monitor is supporting G-Sync, it won't work in an environment when you have more than one monitor. So something to take in consideration. I do believe the NVIDIA team is going to fix that in the future, but you know, don't get upset if it doesn't work. It won't work until they update the driver. For the AMD user, I do believe it works no matter what configuration you have, which is great. Now the color profile here, this is something I do. It's more related to content creation, but it could be also interesting for you in terms of, you know, gaming. If you don't want to have like the vivid color and you want to have like really like a good experience when you come to truthness of the color on your screen, I advise you to go and tick in the built-in profile there. And it's gonna, what they call, is gonna clamp the color based on the special recommendation from the screen manufacturer. The best way to do it will be to have an ICC profile you will create with a specific tool, you know, to calibrate your own screen. So obviously, like if you have one, like go for this option. But yeah, that's the option you have there. Now for enable HDR. HDR right now, implementation is not the best when it comes to Wayland. So it does work, but it's kind of like half-half situation there. And it's not something I'm gonna cover until it's totally working. So I would say right now, avoid HDR, at least if you're NVIDIA. On AMD, I think it's kind of okay, but I can't tell because I don't have an AMD card. Just make your own tests there. I know personally, like when it comes to HDR on my machine, it's definitely not ready. I can assure you that, at least on the desktop. There is a way to enable HDR before launching a game and enable HDR within a game, but this is going to be another topic for another video. Okay, chat? But right now, we're going to stay on disable HDR in general. The second option I always check when it comes to gaming is my mouse. So you will see by default, your mouse receiver is going to be set with an acceleration. That's what it is. It's accelerating. It's just no good. So here you go, you press none, you apply, and boom, no more acceleration. It's a little cheap, but it's really important. Like I can assure you guys, this makes a difference, especially if you are into competitive gaming. You set it to none here, and you should be good to go. And last and not least, I advise you to go and check the power management settings there and make your own source. Is there in their setting. Personally, I deactivate every type of energy setting related to my hard drive or my PC. I want them to always run. This is personal option, but just make sure you look at it because, you know, sometimes you could have troubleshooting related to that because you just missed it. All right, so now let's jump into gaming and application and library related to gaming. If you come from another distro, you will certainly know that sometimes gaming can be a little bit problematic because you have to install a lot of libraries and packages for your game just to run. The advantage of CachyOS is that they have their own like CachyOS gaming meta that will install a lot of packages. So if you go on their wiki and you go on this little link, you will have the list here of all the packages and library that will be installed if you install these meta packages. So what does it mean really concretely? What it means is like with one command, you're going to install all of those. And by all of those, I mean Steam, Proton, Wine, MongoDB, GameScope, like everything related for gaming to work in a good, I would say, like manner. I would say even better, in a best manner. You don't have to do the work, you just have to install it. To install it, as I mentioned earlier, you have really two ways. You can still go through the GUI and go through CachyOS Hello there and go on apps and tweak. And here you should have install gaming packages. So you can just click here, it's going to install it. But us, we're going to do it old school together, and I'm going to show you how to do it. You're going to go and type paru gaming meta. And here is going to pop up in the selection CachyOS gaming meta. And actually, the AUR, they actually copy CachyOS there, inspired by Cachy gaming meta packages. Okay, so it's literally a copy of what CachyOS did. It's pretty good. You go there, you type 1, type your password, and it's gonna ask you a question. Okay, so there it's really important. So listen to me, because I've seen so many people getting stuck on those stupid questions. You just need to think about the answer and what it means. And I know sometimes it could be complicated. Okay, don't please always go with the default. That's all I have to say. Try to read them and try to understand them. If you don't understand them, go on the Discord of CachyOS, for example, or check first on internet if you can find your answer, or use yourself thinking there, and I'm going to show you after. But don't go with the default and just press enter. Like, this is definitively what's going to break your arch, and you're going to be like, oh, arch is always breaking. Oh, no. Just please sit down and read. Okay, so here it's saying there are 2 providers available for SDL. Okay, so this is the name of the packages there, and there is 2 repositories. It means that the same application is available in both the extra repo and the CachyOS extra v3. My CPU is a v3 CPU, so I'm going to go with 1. Enter. Then same question here. v3 or extra, same package, so I'm going to go with the v3. Voila, and that's all. So obviously here I'm lucky because this is the right one, but sometimes you're going to have more questions, and just make sure that it's aligned. So one of the common mistakes is like a question related to your GPU, for example, and you're going to have choice between AMD and NVIDIA, and then NVIDIA proprietary, and then AMD proprietary. And if you go with the default, there is a high chance it won't go for the correct packages for your GPU. This is just an example that come out of my mind right now. So just read, please, and if you don't know, just pass. To quit, it's Control-C. Okay, if you want to quit this, you just type Control-C and you're going to get out. So here is all the package that the meta package is going to install. So here you press yes, and it's going to download it pretty fast. Now finish install everything. I just want to point out that there is in those packages 2 packages which are, in my opinion, super important, which are like Proton CachyOS and Wine CachyOS, present within the CachyOS gaming meta. And as you can read in the wiki, the Proton CachyOS is based on Proton experimental bleeding edge, and he applies a lot of patch on top of it. So you can see here he has like 1 staging patch, Wine full screen FSR, reflex support for Wine and DXVK, and also Wine Saver gets LTO add compilation. So you have all those tweaks which are applied. So you have this Proton CachyOS available, but you also have like Wine CachyOS, which is similar to Proton CachyOS, but is more like a standalone version of it. What I think is really important is like those 2 layers are actually compiled against native system library and compiler instruction, which could improve gaming performance in general. So are you going to get more FPS? I'm not sure. Like, I've seen some benchmark where some users, they have like a little bit of a better, I would say, experience. Me personally, I like it because you are sure that when you run your Steam in a native mode, you also have a Proton which is run and compiled in natively. So this is, again, like a value added, and something we're going to talk about after in the video, but it's a pretty nice piece of software, I have to say. Now let's jump into Steam. So for Steam, it's pretty straightforward, but the first thing you're going to notice is like you're going to have two applications to run Steam on your machine. You're going to have the runtime and you're going to have the native. The one you want to go with on CachyOS is the native version, obviously because we are using Proton CachyOS native, and on paper it's supposed to use the native libraries, which is supposed to give us a little bit boost when it comes to performance. However, if for whatever reason your game are not properly working, you could always jump back to the runtime version. So the runtime version is the same Steam. You won't have to relog or do anything, but it's going to use the runtime provided by Valve. That's the only difference. Personally, I always use the native for the last like 3 years, and I never had any issue with any games. My issue never came from Steam. But just in case, if you need to debug something, that could be the cause of some type of issue. So I'm going to launch Steam Native and I'm going to log into it and I'm going to show you all the settings. All right, so I installed it and just log in, and we're going to do the setup together because there is something which I believe we need to clarify. So the first thing is that you're going to go to Steam and settings, and we're going to go together and look at all the options and what you need to be set. So I'm going to start from the bottom. So for music, I don't touch anything there. Broadcast, here I'm not broadcasting through Steam, so I just disable it. Remote play, I don't use this feature, so I disable this one too. For the voice, I don't touch anything. It's related to your voice input there. I'm not touching it. Controller, here, by default with my PlayStation 4 gamepad, I have no issue by letting everything by default. So here, no issue. The most important for Linux is this one here. It's the compatibility one. So for the compatibility here, you need to enable Steam Play for all the other titles. So you click this one here. And here I'm going to restart later. And you will see that here, you run over title with. So all the games which are not native to Linux, they're going to go through the Proton CachyOS native package here. But you see, you can install the other one. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the choice there later in the video, but my recommendation will be to stick with Proton CachyOS native package there. When it comes to gaming here, this is personal preference. Here to storage. This is where you add your hard drive. One big thing I see always in the help me or on the forum everywhere is that some Windows user who are switching to Linux, they have their hard drive, they have an extra hard drive with all their gaming data on it. And what they do, they will import it through there. And what I'm going to tell you guys to do is simple. Don't do it, okay? Because your hard drive from Windows is going to use a file system which is different from the one from Linux. And even if Linux can read the file system, is going to create issue related to the write on the file. So, and you're going to have problem in your game. Like you might be able to launch them, then it's going to be all like weird. So if you have Linux, please get rid of your backup data of Windows for gaming. Not all of it, please, don't be stupid. But you get the idea. You're going to have to re-download them. All right, like super important, guys. Now, when it comes to download, this one is the most, I would say, second most important when it comes to gaming on Linux. If you go down there, you have this shader pre-caching option. And this one, allow background of processing of Vulkan shader, it's a big debate. And even this one, enable pre-caching shader, it's also a big debate. Me, personally, I just disable it, right? I disable it because loading it on my machine is like really fast. Like if I start a game during like the introduction of the game, is just going to recompile everything and everything is going to be fine. Okay. Especially with the latest NVIDIA driver. I do believe it's going to be the same with AMD. Now, if you are in a situation where it's crazy to load your shader and it takes a lot of time of processing each time you load the game for whatever reason. It should not happen if you have, you know, like recent hardware, but let's say it's still doing it. You go and you activate both of them, okay? This one can be tricky because you will see that Steam might be using a lot of your CPU when it's just idling on the side. And this to me is just a no-go. But again, depending on your hardware, you're gonna have to play with this. I'm gonna show you another trick after, but it's just to give you an idea there. And now for the rest, it's really related to preference. So nothing crazy there. I just show you the most important one, in my opinion. So I'm gonna restart Steam. So now I install my game. I'm gonna show you some other tricks, in my opinion, which are super important. And this could be applied to every type of distro there. The first thing you wanna do is make sure you have Proton Experimental Bleeding Edge installed. So you go onto your library here. On the search, you type Proton, and also Proton are going to appear here. You go on Proton Experimental here, and you make sure that you activate the special Bleeding Edge version. So you go on General Beta here, and you selection Bleeding Edge here, this one. Latest and untested. This is the one you want to try, okay? And then you install it or update it. So now we cover the settings and Proton Experimental, Beta, Bleeding Edge. I want to show you what are the correct commands to launch a game within CachyOS, because they have something really particular for making sure that the game are being launched at the max capacity, I would say. So I'm going to show you with a simple game here, like Dredge, for example. And we're going to right click on property, okay? And here you have the launch option. So one of the really common application out there in Linux to make sure that your CPU and your system is at setting at the max performance, it's called like game mode. Because of the way like CachyOS is set up, you don't need game mode. Like it's going to be counterproductive on CachyOS to use game mode. So please don't use game mode. What you need to use is something called game performance. So it's a command already built in CachyOS. And you need to use it here in the launch option command, okay? So you go there and you type game performance space percentage command percentage. Okay, this is the way you should launch your game on CachyOS. So let's say you're on a laptop. This is going to set up the profile to performance, right? It's going to set up everything for you to have the best performance when you launch the game. So that's the first one I'm going to show you. And this is for all the CPU, all the GPU, okay? Super important. I repeat, don't use game mode. The other one is related to the shader disk cache generation, and I would say like overall like housekeeping. So each time you launch the game, as I mentioned, like the shader generation is gonna get generated. Can I say that? No, like the shader cache, my bad, is going to get generated, my bad. But the generation is gonna start, right? But what if you already have the shader generated? And the best way to make sure it's always generated is to add this command line. So I'm going to put it in the description below, gl_shader disk cache. And this command here, it's a variable actually. And this variable is going to tell your computer to keep it for life. So when you create those shader, they are going to stay on your hard drive and they are not going to clean up. So there is another way you can enable that globally on your PC, but I wouldn't do it because then it's complicated, like which game is going to be maybe an issue related to space and you're going to have to clean it manually. Here you just pick up the game. You want them to be like, locked on and not regenerated or not deleted exactly. And it's going to limit the regeneration of shader you already compiled before you close the game. I know it's a little bit confusing, but adding this line is going to make sure that those shaders they stay on your hard drive. Long story short. So for the sake of showing you like it's working out of the box, like I did literally nothing. We did the settings, we installed the meta gaming package, we just put our game there and you will see we should be good to go. So I'm going to add Mango HUD, like that's we're going to see with the type of FPS we are on this a little game. So Dredge, it's a game I want to play on stream. I think it would be really fun. But we're going to jump into it and you will see like it's, yeah, that's gonna be working. So I hope there is a FPS limiter. So yeah, I guess there is a FPS limiter, or maybe not. Okay. So we are running at like 270, 276. I'm pretty sure there is some type of limitation there. Anti-aliasing, Windows, reflection. Oh yeah, we are on VSync. So I'm gonna remove VSync. And here we are. So we are at like, yeah, 300 FPS. Well, I guess there is some type of limitation here, but we are having a perfect experience there. Out of the box, my frame time like look pretty straightforward, but you got the idea, right? The game and everything else just work out of the box. I just show you some tweaks, but there is not a lot to do on CachyOS. To be fair, I don't know if you saw me on my stream. Each time I use CachyOS to check the performance versus another distro, and sometimes I install it on stream. It goes so fast. I would say like if you are experienced, and it will take less than, I would say, 15 minutes to install and configure it from beginning to end. All right, so now we covered the Steam setting. There is some little application I want to kind of like share with you before I let you go on this video. So the first one is the Heroic Game Launcher, which is installed with the Meta package for gaming from CachyOS. And you will see it's already installed, which is pretty sweet. Everything works. So that would be the first one. So this one is great when you come to a game on the Epic Store, GOG Store, and Prime Gaming. You can literally have access to all those one like that. Like it's just insane. So this is a really good one, in my opinion, for those specific store. For the other one, you could use Letris. So the Letris also give you access to those store if you want to set up correctly here. No problem. Again, you choose the one you want to go with. Or what did I do here? I did make a mistake. But my favorite for those three one is definitively Heroic. But this one is not bad either, and it's installed by default. So I don't want to go too deep into it, but it's there. The one which sometimes can cause a lot of problem on all the Debian-based distro is Go-Verly. So for making like a lot of tutorial on gaming on Linux Mint, for example, always had issue with our friend Go-Verly. Here, no problem. Everything is working out of the box. You set up everything as you want for you know, your Mongo HUD, like FPS there. And I'm telling you, like this is pretty cool to set up. So again, my 2 cents there. Just do whatever you want, but it's already set up, and everything should be good to go from the get-go. So just to test it together there, I set it up to full there. I restarted, and you can see all my information is here. So you can set up everything as you want. Like it's not an issue. I just wanted to share that with you because you know, some other distro it's a problem. Now, one of my favorite application out there, and it's called Proton Up Qt. So you type Paru Proton Up. Okay. And here you're gonna find from the repo of CachyOS already compiled Proton Up Qt. Type 1. Type your password. Type yes, and bim, Proton Up Qt should be installed. So what I really like about this one is that you can download all the different Proton directly from there. And you know, before you didn't have this type of application. It was a pain to go compile your Proton, or even go on GitHub and download any type of Proton. But here you can choose which Proton you're gonna download and in which folder. So let's say I want a new version of Proton for Steam. Okay, I would go there, I will click on Add Version, and here I will have access to all the Proton G, all the Boxtron, all the Proton TKG. And my recommendation when it comes to installing and using Proton would be that when you start a game on Steam, it's the first time you want to use it, for example, you will always start with Proton CachyOS because it's a native version. It's on paper, it's the best. Second one, you're going to go with Proton Experimental Bleeding Edge, the one I showed you how to install before. Super solid and always with the latest patch. So if it's already a recent game and this patch has not been pushed toward CachyOS or Proton GE, you might find your solution there in terms of like debugging. And then I will jump into the Proton TKG and the Proton GE version. Last resort. Sometimes old games, they require like patch, you will only find in the Proton GE, for example, or the Proton TKG. That will be my approach there. Let me know how you do in the comment below, but for me, that's the way I was able to run like all my game without any issue. And guys, last but not least, Open RGB for the real gamer, if you want more FPS. So we have it here in the repo, already compiled. Just go there, install, yes. And now you will see, I'm gonna launch it. Because we have a custom kernel, because everything is set up, all my hardware is gonna be detected, like all of it, okay? And yes, everything is there. My graphic card, my RAM, and my motherboard. Simple as that. Because you know, guys, really important. Really important to have a RGB when you game. And voila, we are done with optimizing gaming on CachyOS. And as you notice, there is a lot to do, but not that much. Like the driver already installed, the kernel is already there. I already go like a little bit deeper and try to show you like some basic thing you might forget while installing your CachyOS distro there. But I think I covered most of it. I could go deeper, especially with, I think, like a Steam option, but also with the kernel. The kernel is going to be definitely a video. I'm going to be presenting you like some kernel tweak, and you know, like I'm going to show you how to play with the kernel within CachyOS in the next video. But don't expect a lot, I would say a lot of performance, because the kernel by default is already great. But it's going to be for the one who already want to, you know, experiment on the hardware, and you might have good surprise, okay? For example, like I've heard about LADD, I think it's called, or LADV, scheduler within the sched-xt, which give like a little bump of like 4 to 8% on certain hardware. So we're going to experience that together. I'm going to show you how to set it up. But overall, I would say for gaming, like you have the solid base if you applied everything I talk in the video, especially OpenRGB. But you get it. So guys, again, thank you very much for watching. If you had any type of value added watching this video, whether you think it was funny or you learned something, don't hesitate, please, to share this video, give a thumbs up, and also like become a member of La Crème de la Crème Club, whether it's on YouTube or Patreon, to support the channel financially. Guys, I need your help to continue what I'm doing right now. This is my full-time activity. I'm pushing a lot of videos those days. And yes, you know, if you want to help and want this channel to continue to live, please help. Okay, like I'm gonna be straight with you, like help. Then that's all for today, guys. Thanks again for watching. Thanks for all the ones who are already helping financially, guys. You are the best. And yeah, that's all for today. Thanks again, and see you in the next one. Bisous, bisous.